Good morning, good afternoon, good wherever you are. How is everybody doing today? How is everybody doing? How is everybody doing? It is oh my goodness, I'm getting that reverb. Ah, let's take care of that real quick. There we go. But yes, this is the Daily Bulletin. This is kind of where I pick a certain topic to talk about. It's going to be a bit sporadic for the time being. We're going to be talking about, well, some things that went down involving Mark Waid this past weekend at Boston Comic-Con. I believe it was Boston Comic-Con. Let me double check to be sure. Let me make sure my facts are correct before I go and shooting myself in the foot. How is everybody doing out there in the old YouTube land? It is Baltimore. My mistake. I will correct that right now. But yeah, okay. So today we're going to be talking about a situation that happened this past week over Baltimore Comic-Con, namely involving Mark Waid, the creator Mark Waid, who some of you know. He is very famous for doing things such as Captain America, Fantastic Four, Irredeemable, all those other really awesome books that a lot of us really enjoy. Hey, Matt. So we got some people in the chat right now. Let's discuss this. So Mark Waid, over the past weekend on his Facebook page, he called out a certain YouTuber known as Diversity in Comics. Diversity in Comics is one of those YouTubers that he talks about, you know, the social justice warrior, Marvel thing, and everything like that, where he feels that Marvel, in a way, is ostracizing older characters for newer, younger, diverse characters, and he feels that older characters are getting put in place and they're being shoehorned in. Agree to disagree. I clearly don't share the same feelings that that man has. However, I do respect his decision to state that, and I respect, you know, his platform. Whatever he wants to say, he can. I don't agree with a lot of it. That's what makes YouTube great. Everybody can share their feelings. So, with that said, Mark Waid over the weekend posted up on his Twitter, boy, this went bad. For anyone attending this weekend's excellent Baltimore Comic-Con, I have an important request. There is a serial YouTube harasser named Richard C. Mayer who I'm told may be attending as a fan. If anyone sees this gentleman or any of his friends, I need you to come and find me and tell me immediately. Even if I'm on panel, come up and interrupt. Please circulate this request as wildly as possible. You can through social media accounts. Fellow pros tell each other. This is about attempting to lessen the harassment of women in comics, and it's important. Please spread the word. Thank you. Okay. First things first, not the best thing to do. Okay, Mark, I love you. I love you as a creator. Yeah, I met you once and you were a bit salty and you really weren't in the best mood, apparently. It didn't work out that way, but I have had tons of fans and tons of friends who have met you and have said that you were nothing but a courteous gentleman. You were really great and you were awesome. So with that said, that was a bad move. And I will explain to you why that was a bad move in certain ways. I understand the position that you are taking a stance on, that you feel that there are a lot of people and a lot of women, especially in this industry, that are being threatened with various things. We know what happens. We've seen it happen. And, you know, despite the contrary, that there's not a lot of claims that are gone, you know, noticed and things like that. With that said, calling a YouTuber out online that has a huge following, such as Diversity in Comics, and that has a following that is a very conservative following, and, you know, things are very hot button right now, is not the best decision. His fans ran with it, and a lot of conservative readers and a lot of readers that take his side on the situation that's happening at Marvel. They ran with it, saying that Mark Waid is putting out a hit on this guy, that Mark Waid shouldn't be allowed to, you know, do this to somebody, to call somebody out like that. And I don't believe that it was necessarily a hit that Mark Waid was putting out. Let me be clear about that. I don't think that Mark Waid was putting a hit out on this guy. You know, people tend to overreact online. People tend to blow things out of complete proportion online, as we tend to do. What I do think was that this was a really, really bad call on Mark's part to kind of post this online and blow it all up online, because you know people are going to run with it. You know they will. This could have easily been handled a much better way. Simply messaging the guy. You could have easily messaged him through his YouTube account, through his Twitter account, and things would have been a lot better. If you messaged him going through his YouTube account or through his Twitter account saying, hey, look, I don't necessarily agree with your stance on this. I don't think that what you're doing is right. I really want to talk to you. I really want to get a phone call with you. Let me talk to you. Let me talk to what's going on. Diversity in Comics, for those of you that don't know, like I said already, he has one of those social justice warrior YouTube channels that's seemingly blowing up out of everywhere. And he also does reviews and things like that. He also does a few other thought pieces. I don't necessarily agree with the man in what he does, like I've already stated, but like I said, he has the right to state it. So with that said, let's actually dive in more, because certain other things have happened since then. Oh boy. So let me pull up the other stuff. My Mac's being kind of crazy today. Excuse me. Mark Waid then edited his post. Edited to add, for those who missed it, the man I was eager to talk to, as it turns out, will not be at this convention after all, and I am disappointed we will not be able to have a conversation there. He has offered to converse with me next week, which is fine. Our mutual goal is to tamp down the increasing anger for some fans and creators alike, myself included. That's beginning to mirror the diversiveness of our country. That is very true. Looking with fresh morning eyes, I can see how my urgency could be interpreted by some as having a threatening shade despite numerous clarifications. I should have been more mindful of the fact that, as we all know, anything said on social media will be subject to miscommunication, and I will make an effort to be more conscious of that when I post. Very mature of him. It's very mature of Mark Waid to admit that he kind of goofed up, I can also understand why casual fans who weren't aware of certain bad behaviors were taken back by how quickly fellow professionals jumped into the conversation, parts of which I admit in retrospect I should have made private and not public. This was about one specific person, not about vilifying fans, whom I love. It was a request for an earnestly needed conversation with one specific man who makes a number of non-straight white male creators uncomfortable and nervous and fearful of attending shows. You can decide that their nervousness is unwarranted or overblown. I can't dictate your feelings. And you can choose not to believe me or that we're all snowflakes. Again, I can't control that, but the discomfort exists and it's a reality and needs to be addressed for everyone's sake. By taking it, at least making an effort to engage quickly. Be well. Okay, so Mark Waid comes out, makes this statement. It's like, okay, he admits he goofed up. This probably wasn't the best way for me to do this. I understand. And let's face facts. There is a growing number of creators out there that they feel they are being harassed, that they feel that they are being treated wrongfully, that they are being attacked, and it's happened. It does happen. We can't ignore this anymore, especially those that are female or minorities. It just does, and that's the sad aspect of this. But let's keep going. So Mr. Mayor says that he will not be at Baltimore after all. So let's table this conversation until that was Mark Waid. Eventually, they did have that phone conversation. And Mark Waid has said that, hey, we had that phone conversation. That was about the extent of it. Diversity in Comics replied, Mark Waid and I had the phone conversation that was promised, brief and unproductive, but it happened. Nothing more to say on that. So it doesn't sound like really anything got done. It doesn't sound like anything really in the end was accomplished at all. Mark Waid then replied again, this is getting ugh. And people are just going to keep going and going and going. This has been going on literally all weekend long. It's been pretty crazy. Harassment in the industry towards young creators. This was Mark Waid on September 25th, which was yesterday. Towards young creators of gender and color, LGBTQ plus creators just peaked. Something awful has happened. We need to talk. I just got back from Baltimore Comic-Con, which is usually one of the best conversations. God, let me get my stuff straight. Baltimore Comic-Con, which was its usual one of the best conventions in the nation. Mark Nathan and his crew are courteous, attentive, and most importantly, terrifically sensitive to the safety concerns of some of the creators and fans who feel threatened by the current climate, alleviating their worries. Mark and his team are knights. This is a bit of a long statement, so bear with me, okay? Over the past couple of weeks, a disappointingly large number of younger creators have been reaching out to me about harassment from angry fringe fans. With that in mind, the best and most worthwhile moments of the convention came from walking the floor, talking and listening, helping raise awareness of how bad harassment has become. Awareness both among fans and among my generation of pros. Too many of the latter were still of the I ignore haters, they'll go away school until I reminded them of the demented armed fan at Phoenix Comic-Con last May who was arrested just before he could assault a guest of the show. Until I could share with them confidentiality some of the most serious threats and death threats, rape threats specifically. The folks I talked to, many of them with big megaphones, some of the show store owners, a couple of them well-intended YouTube commenters eager to distance themselves from the personal attack ones, are all ready to redouble their support to the younger pros who feel unwelcomed or targeted. Regardless of gender or race or background, we work together on some positive actions we can take in the days and weeks to come. It's no silver bullet, but I've been assured that it's a step forward. This is just the first paragraph, and let's talk about this one. No creator, period, should feel harassed, should feel that they shouldn't be allowed to go to a convention, should feel that they shouldn't be allowed to promote their things, should feel that they should basically be afraid to attend a convention and meet their fans. It's crazy. That to me is crazy, the amount of vitriol and hatred that is getting spread to these creators. The fact that a lot of these creators are now afraid, some of the younger ones are now afraid to actually go to cons. And some of them out there are saying, oh, they're just being sensitive, if you ignore them, this will happen and stuff like that. When it gets to the point where guys like Dan Slott, where guys like some female creators are getting death threats, that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Guys, these are comics. These are comic books. These are things that we are meant to enjoy. Why is it getting to this point? Why? It should not get to this point. These are things that we all enjoy. There is enough hatred and vitriol and anger that is going on in the world. And I understand that there's going to be some out there that don't share my viewpoint on this. I get that. I do. But that is nuts to me. Let's keep going. Let's keep going with Mark Waid's statement. Basically, there was a lot of things that were built up over the past few days. Conversely, and with transparency, let's talk about my misstep by unartfully making my original post about industry harassment sound as if all of it came from 1 or 2 YouTube videos and not also from the repeated misogynist anti-LGBTQ comments made in private as well as in public. I got thrown by a brilliant bit of opposition judo. I allowed the conversation to be framed as comic creators can't take criticism or comic creators punch down on innocent fans. I feel I fell into the trap like a total tyro. I didn't do us any favors, and anyone who recognized that, glare at me. I deserve it. Very mature of him. Very mature and very understanding of him. Again, this is one of those things where, look, you might not agree with the guy's YouTube channel. I certainly don't. But putting that out there, calling the guy out and things like that, it just aggravates the situation. It does not help the situation whatsoever. It doesn't. It does not. I'm telling you right now. The best course of action is let the guy run his YouTube channel. You didn't need to call him out. You could have had your con. It would have been fine. Why? Why would you call this guy out on YouTube? I mean, on your Facebook, knowing what his audience is going to do, knowing how they're going to react. And to be completely honest, okay, let's say I talk smack about, let's say, I've gone on record and talked smack about Scott Lobdell. Let's say I talk smack about Scott Lobdell. And Scott Lobdell said, oh, if this person is at this con, I want to meet with him now. I would honestly kind of expect a lot of my fans to react the same way that Diversity in Comics fans did. Oh, this guy's calling him out. Like, why is he calling him out? Is this a hit? Like, why is this? I kind of understand where they're coming from. I genuinely do. So it was something that there was a loss of communication in that statement. And I'm telling you, like I said earlier, if Mark Waid had just reached out to him, sent him a private message or sent him a Twitter message, a lot of this could have been avoided. Let's keep going, though. And then we're going to jump back into the main subject about this, which is the harassment that is going on right now with creators at conventions and things like that. So that was the big thing that kind of set all this in motion. So with more clarity, the actual problem, the one that so many younger or career vulnerable creators keep speaking to me about, isn't YouTube videos that complain about a black girl in Iron Man armor, or how Marvel did a story that temporarily turned Captain America into a Nazi. They're not the ones that scream in all caps titles that I'm a sick social justice warrior who's destroying comics with my liberal agenda. Fine. You buy the comics, you have a right to an opinion, obviously. Broadcast your thoughts, it's a free country. Have at it. In fact, come at me. If you're offended by progressivism, I'm proud to be a progressive writer, and as a freelancer, I can speak freely for myself without fear of being cursed or accused of representing a specific publisher. The actual problem, this is what he was getting to, is that there are a large number of younger creators, professionals, staffers in the industry, a large number than you could possibly imagine, who do not have that same privilege. They are being harassed repeatedly, and it's getting worse. As I say, I've been talking with many of them over the last few weeks. These are not histrionic people, my mistake. These are not overly dramatic people. They are reasonable adults, some of them whom cannot speak out because of their employers, which then, that leads me to think there's something up with the employers as well. And yet they are legitimately frightened by harassers who threaten to come and find them at conventions and stores, at their homes. One was told she should be burned to death. Another was told that she should be put down like a dog. And those are examples of some of the less hateful attacks. I have screen caps of all this material. I'm looking at them right now, and they're being dealt with by authorities. But that's where we're at. This is becoming commonplace, and I have reached the end of my patience. So, with that said, again, we're back at this again. This is becoming commonplace. I'm going to say something right now. If you follow me, and you are one of these people that threatens a creator, that harasses a creator, that is insulting a creator like that, please leave. Don't follow me. Don't follow this channel. Don't subscribe to my Patreon. Just go. Simple as that. I don't want you here. And this isn't a thing about like Republicans or anything. This is a thing about harassment towards creators. Period. This is what this is about. This is about harassing creators. They are people too. They bust their ass on books that, even though you might not agree with them, even though you might not agree with where the books are going or their political stance on certain things, they are people. They don't deserve to be treated like that. Period. Okay? Period. You would think this is common sense. This isn't anything new. This really isn't. Treat people how you want to be treated. That's something that we learned in middle school and high school. And I think it's also, we're seeing this more and more because of the rise of the internet and because of rise of anonymity, and how I can create, like a Twitter account with Pepe the Frog, and I could just harass a bunch of creators. And when I do that, okay, fine, he blocks me. I just create another account in like 20 minutes, and I can do it again. This is not the way the comics should be. This is not the way that the state of the industry should be. If you don't like something that somebody is publishing, you have every single right to criticize them about it. Threatening the creator is completely different than criticizing them. There's two different things. Let's keep going with Mark's statement. Not long ago, one of my friends had something terrible happen to them. Because of all this, at their request, I can't talk about it right now. It's been a bit, but it was vile, and the wound is still fresh. You may choose not to believe me, but I've always been truthful and transparent and straightforward with every one of you, every moment of every day over the last 35 plus years, and you know that. I've trusted you with my honesty and thoughts, and now I need to trust you to trust me when I say that some of these harassers have gone too far. I believe it. I firmly believe what he's talking about. Criticism of the work itself is fine. Again, what I was saying. But no reasonable person would fail to draw the line at direct personal threats and attacks on gender and race and orientation. All of you would hold that line. I know it. I believe in the people who have believed in me, so I'm asking for your help. Not to mob up, not to attack, not to confront. That does no good. These harassers feed on attention, and they need to be starved of attention. They need to be drowned out. I'm asking for your help to change the signal to noise ratio. I'm asking for your help on the behalf of the people who need us to do two things, two simple things. 1. Show your support. Share this piece far and wide. Comment all day long whenever you can to show these being bullied that we have their backs, and do it tomorrow and the day after and keep doing it. It makes a difference to the people who need us. If you reject bigotry, misogyny, and racism, remind others that comics is an inclusive medium made stronger by the voice it amplifies. 2. Please, pro or fan, start championing positivity in comics, not hate. Established pros, excuse me, I'm getting a little bit of a dry mouth. Established pros, myself included, have to really start tamping down to the instincts to push back on social media, even when the attacks get brutally personal and vicious. Very true. Very, very true. What you guys don't realize, a lot of the creators out there, like I was saying, what you guys don't realize is that a lot of the creators out there, when you fire back at some of these people that they are seeking just attention, you are enabling them. You are giving them what they want. You are feeding into them, which in turn leads to their fans feeding into them and things, yada, yada, yada. It's better just, if it's at that point, I understand, shut off Twitter. Shut off Facebook. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. You really shouldn't. But if it gets that bad, I know creators that have done it. Dan Slott has done it because the harassment got that bad. Mark Waid has, in my opinion, I believe he's done it as well. And you shouldn't have to. But if it gets that bad, shut it off, come back a few days later. And they'll probably still be there. Block them. But don't feed into these people. Don't do that. I run a YouTube channel. I've gotten, just being blunt, I've gotten death threats from my YouTube channel because somebody didn't agree with a review or somebody didn't agree with something that I've said. I've gotten people to try to harass me. I've had people say, "Oh, you work at this place, I know where you work at." Things like that, really weird stuff. They weren't right. They were completely wrong. I guess they were taking a stab in the dark because they know I live in Orlando. Comic books don't need, Cyril McWembry. Comic books don't need the same harassment dramas that befell the Tokyo Ghoul creator and the Steven Universe fan artist. We'll get creators to hear us, just not this way. Let's keep going. I told you, this is really long. Champion positivity in comics, not hate. Talk about what you love. Try to look beyond that one title you think we screwed up or that one artist whose work repels you. Think about what's happening to real people. Think about how that same hate could so easily turn on a friend of yours or on you. There are hundreds and hundreds of comics published every month. And if your favorite one hits a rough patch, I'm genuinely sorry. I really am. But it'll eventually come around. So take the opportunity to expose yourself to other books, other series you might like. Hell, if nothing else, go read Saga. No one doesn't like Saga. No one doesn't like Saga. Just tell each other about the wonders that you find. Just as a side note, I don't really like Saga. I'm that one guy. I'm not that crazy about Saga. I've said it before. It's not for me. It really isn't for me. So it started out strong. It started out amazing. And it's recently fallen off for me. We're almost at the tail end here. Maybe you think everything I've said here is overblown, partly because of various investigations in play. I don't have a whole lot to show you at this time. I can't make you believe me. All I can do is once more remind you that I've always been open and honest with you, and I will never lie to you. Harassment to the point where professionals are pulling out of conventions or shying away from anywhere where fans tend to congregate is utterly unacceptable, and frustratingly, there will always be some fans who don't take that concern seriously. We live in a cynical time. Empathy is in short supply. But even if you're still skeptical, it doesn't matter. Not if you're a good people. Kind of a typo there. Consider, just as no one has the right to tell us what we do or don't have a right to be angry or frustrated about, no one should be able to tell frightened people that they don't have a right to be afraid. If you're grieving, if you're happy, we can respect your grief or your joy, even if we don't share it, because we have basic human empathy. By that same measure, we can never belittle the feelings and fears of others just because we don't share them. At best, that's cool. At worst, it just creates more rage and thus makes everything worse for everyone. I'm surrounded by a lot of good, concerned people as we work on this, most of whom are smarter and more aware than I am. Together, we're going to do what we can to help tamp down the anger and hate that's hurting us all. If this is something that matters to you, you are more than welcome to be a part of that conversation. If you just need to speak privately, we will listen. Either way, your voice is valued and we will hear you. Thank you. Whew. Okay, that's a mouthful of a statement. That is a mouthful of a statement. Most of it I do agree on. And most of them, I really do. I think Mark Waid makes a very, very strong and valuable point. Like I've been saying, no creator, doesn't matter who you are, conservative, liberal, flying spaghetti monster, whatever you want to believe in, should feel harassed, should feel that they could not attend a convention. And by Mark Waid calling out diversity in comics like that on Facebook, I think a lot of his fans felt that they were implying that all they do is that they harass Marvel, that they send them death threats, and all this other stuff, which set off a chain of events. Like I said, could have been handled in a better way. So then Mark Waid posted a few more things on Facebook, and I'm dying right now. Mark Waid's statement on the conversation that he had with Diversity in Comics. I finally had my phone conversation with Mr. Mayor. We mutually agreed that all that needs to be said is that it was unproductive. For the record, that call was made. No need to post a comment. Please, this doesn't need discussion. Thanks. So they had that conversation. Oh boy, and it kept going. If you come here to respond to my post about the specific targeted harassment of non-straight white males in comics by trying to start a But All Lives Matter side thread, we're not doing that. Those of you feel like being conservative in comics is just as bad as getting rape threats have been invited to discuss that elsewhere, so as not to pull focus from what I perceive to more immediate. Okay. Once again, if you are one of these individuals that feels being a conservative in comics is as bad as getting threats, you really need to reevaluate your priorities in life. You really do. You really do. And I understand that conservatives in comics, people that read comics and they are conservatives, they have gotten a bad rep in comics. They're often portrayed as backwards thinking. They're often portrayed as individuals that they are always fighting against the heroes and things like that. That's not the case. That's not. There's, and this is also a subject of what's going on in our world today, where there is this us versus them mentality. There is this conservative versus liberal mindset, and you are either on one side or the other. That is it, and that is what's starting to also influx into comics, where you've got comics can't have a conservative character without them being portrayed as a villain. I have friends that are conservatives. I have friends that are liberals. We don't agree on certain things, but that's fine. That's totally fine. That is totally fine, guys, as long as it's done in a civil manner. The Clark Laydale. On the real, I do think companies need to do a better job of vetting threats and also dealing with sexual harassment from creators towards fans of Dell, Brian Wood, Paul Pope, with actual consequences. Very well put. Very well put. Brian Wood, a few years ago, came under some accusations for sexual harassment. Most fans don't know about that. A lot of that stuff was swept under the rug. As far as I remember, nothing was ever proven, but most fans don't remember that. Stuff like that gets swept under the rug. You know? And it's a damn shame that it does. You know? It really is. Now, I don't know anything about Scott Lobdell or Paul Pope. I haven't heard anything about that. But that is kind of where my stance is on all this and all the harassment and all this other stuff. I personally think that just read what you want to read, you know? And creators, it's become a trope. Like, look, I am as liberal as they come, but it has become kind of a certain trope recently to put a conservative or somebody that's a conservative as a villain, that they are the bad guy. They don't, you know, want progress or anything like that. It's become a trope, and it's become one that's kind of growing tired in comics. I'm tired of seeing it. It's an easy out. It's an easy villain at this point because the media is portraying as every single conservative as a villain, or it's us. Again, going back to what I said earlier, the us versus them mentality, us versus them mentality, and it's a damn shame. It really is, because we get enough of it out there. You know, we get enough of it out there. Why have it so much in comics? Now, if you want your characters to be progressive, if you want the writers who are progressive representing their characters to be progressive, that's perfectly fine. So, with that said, let me know what you guys think. I really am open to hearing what you guys have to say about all this. I think Gabe is there. If he wants to join me in the chats, I'll be on for probably another 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Unless Gabe joins me, then we could really get into this a little bit more. But yeah, so just kind of want to read some comments. And kind of just keep on the subject that we're talking about. Doom and Loki would technically qualify as progressive villains. Huh. I didn't think about that. That's a good way of putting it. I'm expecting to get a lot of hate for this post. But I thought it was a subject that needs to be, you know, that needs to be talked about. I really think that it's something that it's important we discuss the ongoing harassment that's going on in the industry and the ongoing threats that are going on in the industry. And I want to make this 100% clear. This isn't an attack on Mark Waid or diversity in comics or anything like that. You know, it's not. So I don't think Gabe is there. Let me see if I can reach out to him so I can get somebody else's take on this. Ethan Van Scriber is back on Twitter. Yeah, Ethan Van Scriber, for those of you that don't know, not the nicest guy in the world. Not the nicest. I love his art, but Ethan Van Scriber, very, very staunch conservative, very strong conservative. I've seen some of the posts that he's posted, and whoo, man, not the nicest guy. As a person, not the nicest in the world. Hold on. Let me see if I can get Gabe. I might actually get him in a minute. Come on, Gabe. I guess not many people want to talk about this. Again, right. This is something. Okay, so kind of talking about what you talked about. I don't think companies need. Clark made a good point earlier. On the real, I do think companies need to do a better job of vetting threats and also dealing with sexual harassment from creators toward fans, with actual consequences. Ethan Van Scriber told a fan to kill himself and got to keep his job. Why? Why? Why is Ethan Van Sciver allowed to keep his job after that? I don't know. I don't know. And that bothers me. That bothers my tiny little monkey mind that he's able to keep his job after making a statement like that. But guys, like I've said, let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on this whole situation. Let me know if you hate me. If you hate too, it's fine. You know. But yeah, speak with you soon. And of course, there's always the Facebook, the Twitter, and guys, the Patreon. Last night's Jess in hardcover. Oh, Jess in hardcover. I don't go by that name anymore. Jess and Lewis news show has gone live on the Patreon. That's only $1 a month. It's down below in the comments in the description. Please, 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 please support this channel. Support what I do. It would be a huge help for $1 a month. $1 a month, you could save a starving child in Orlando. Not really a starving child, but clearly I'm not starving. But it would really help. It really would. Goes a long way, guys. Yeah, so follow that tonight. Blue Tuesday will be up tonight as long as everything goes well. And we are going to be talking about Stephen King's It. That is going to be on Patreon tonight. Everybody else is going to get it. If today was Wednesday, you guys are going to get it Friday. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you minded, if you hated me, if you didn't, I love you. See you soon.